Hey everyone, and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got a breaking news report coming out from Russia, and today I have a story to share with you that explains just how bad the economic situation is right now inside of Russia, as the government is now considering tax hikes on its population to keep the economy stabilized. Let's talk about this new report here on your screen. Russia is reportedly considering VAT increase to 22% for 2026 budget. The Russian government is weighing whether to raise the value added tax or VAT rate to keep the budget deficit under control and preserve its reserves. Russia's economy continues to worsen. So, yet another huge report talking about Russia's economy, how bad things are over there, as we continue to hear that Russia's looking for whatever way they can to continue the fighting inside of Ukraine, while on the back end, their economy continues to crumble. And we're hearing now they're going to be increasing taxes on all their citizens, raising the VAT rate, which is value added tax. And for those of you that aren't aware of that, it's basically a tax that is placed onto the production of any item that is made inside of Russia throughout the production and distribution process. Ultimately, it is the consumer that pays for this tax. So they are directly taxing the citizens on any products that are made inside of Russia to help with the ballooning budget deficit. And we know that it has been exploding over there due to the extreme war costs for Russia to fight inside of Ukraine. So this is crazy news. We're going to talk more about this tax increase. We'll also talk about the budget deficit inside of Russia. And I've also got a few things over on X I'll share with you guys also regarding Russia's economy. We're going to hop on over here to a mainstream news report real quick from the Kyiv Independent. This is a mainstream news outlet out of Ukraine. And it says Russia weighs tax increase as economic pressures mount, Reuters reports. You can see they're citing Reuters today, another mainstream news outlet. This is coming out today, September 18th, 2025. And the information reads, the Russian government is considering raising the value-added tax or VAT rate to keep the budget deficit under control and preserve its reserves, Reuters reported on September 18th, citing four unnamed sources. The news came amid Russia's economic slowdown and declining oil prices, which have already compelled Moscow to slash key projects across various sectors. According to Reuters sources, the government is considering raising the VAT rate from 20 to 22% to reduce the budget deficit. The timing of the decision is unclear, but one of the sources told Reuters it may be introduced in the 2026 budget if the rule to save extra oil revenues stays in place. The draft budget is expected to be submitted on September 29th, with key elements pre-approved by Russian President Vladimir Putin and unlikely to face major changes in parliament. Ivan Us, chief consultant of the Center for Foreign Policy Studies of the Kyiv-based National Institute for Strategic Studies, said the Russian authorities are forced to make sacrifices due to the country's budget deficit. And it says, quote, Russia should make unpopular steps in the economy, either pay no pensions or decrease salaries, which starts to happen now, or freeze people's bank accounts or print more money. But that brings problems of its own, Oz told the Kyiv Independent. Okay, so remember this when it talks about freezing people's bank accounts, printing money, destroying the ruble even further. We have been hearing reports that Russian citizens are now starting to pull their money out of banks inside of Russia. What are they worried about? Are they worried about their banks being frozen? We'll talk more about that. I did bring up that story a little bit earlier this morning with our update video for the Russia-Ukraine war. We also have been discussing this over the last few days. So there is a bank run ongoing inside of Russia right now. It also says, faced with these options, Russia decided to hike the VAT rate, which of course means that the products produced by Russian companies will be more expensive, he added. VAT is a key source of revenue for the Russian budget. The last time the government raised the rate was in 2019, increasing it from 18 to 20%. In 2024, VAT accounted for nearly 37% of all federal budget revenues, around 13.5 trillion rubles, now over $160 billion. VAT generated 37% of Russia's 2024 budget revenue, and raising it could have the 2026 deficit, Reuters calculations show. In June, the Russian finance minister Anton Silunov said the government had no plans to revise taxes again despite ongoing challenges in meeting budget targets. although Putin pledged in 2024 to avoid significant tax reforms before 2030. After 2025 hikes, he urged the government on September 5th to generate additional revenue through productivity gains rather than further taxation. So, yeah, Putin apparently has been telling the population in Russia that they were not going to be raising any taxes on citizens. And it looks like now they're potentially considering this. And most likely because they don't have very many other options. You know, with Ukraine destroying all their oil refineries, they're losing a lot of money with their oil and gas industry. Their banks are being targeted by all these sanctions. Even their shadow fleet of vessels are being targeted. They're really struggling to produce any income inside of Russia. We're also hearing that, you know, banks are taking a huge hit right now. There's a lot of companies on the verge of bankruptcy. I mean, Russia's economy is an absolute mess right now. And we're going to talk about the budget deficit in case you guys aren't aware of how bad things are inside of Russia with their economy as well. This one from the Moscow Times. Russia's budget deficit blows past annual target in just 7 months. This just came out last month on August 8th, 2025. And just briefly right here, it says Russia's budget deficit has overshot the government's full year target, underscoring the mounting financial costs of the war in Ukraine and Moscow's struggle to rein in spending. The finance ministry said Friday the deficit reached 4.88 trillion rubles or $61.1 billion between January and July, or 2.2% of the GDP. That is well above the 3.8 trillion rubles planned for all of 2025 under a revised budget signed by President Vladimir Putin earlier this summer. July alone added another 1.19 trillion rubles to the shortfall. The ministry blamed weaker oil and gas revenues, down nearly 19% year on year, and advanced financing of expenses early in the year. So look at that, guys. So 4.88 trillion rubles is the budget deficit right now, and their target was supposed to be 3.8 trillion, and that's only from January to July. Imagine the rest of the year after they get all the reports of these, how many 15 or more oil refineries that were slammed by Ukrainian drones over the last 45 days that we talked about earlier this morning. I mean, this is only going to continue to get worse inside of Russia. And at the end of the day, I ask Vladimir Putin the very big question: why are you continuing this war inside of Ukraine when it's completely destroying your economy? So crazy news, guys. Now we're going to jump on over to X. I'm going to talk a little bit about fuel prices inside of Russia and some information regarding fuel. So from Z's Maxim on X says, in Russia, wholesale gasoline sales have fallen to a 2-year low. Prices are breaking records and shortages are worsening in the regions of Russia due to high demand among farmers and refinery shutdowns after Ukrainian drone attacks reported by Kommersant. And this is going to be a Russian news outlet. Sales of A92 gasoline on the St. Petersburg Exchange on September 16th decreased by 21.7% to 15.6 thousand tons, which was the minimum figure since 2023. At the same time, sales of A95 decreased by 15.5% compared to the previous day to 12.06 thousand tons. Total sales of gasoline on the exchange decreased by 19.1% to 27.7 thousand tons. So what does this report indicate? It reports two things. That for one, gas prices skyrocketing across Russia. People probably can't afford it. And on top of that, the fuel crisis that's causing a massive fuel shortage. If you're even lucky to buy this expensive gas inside of Russia, you're going to struggle just trying to find a gas station to begin with because there's so many fuel shortages, not only inside of Russia that have spread to more than 20 different regions that we've reported before, but also inside of occupied territories of Ukraine, even Crimea, Zaporizhzhia regions, Donetsk regions, Luhansk regions. I mean, there's fuel shortages everywhere. This is also contributing to a slowdown in the Russian economy and causing more problems. So as we can see, Russia is in a dire situation. Again, why are they still fighting inside of Ukraine? They should get out completely. And Vladimir Putin should focus on fixing the Russian economy, but they are risking it all right now, continuing this war inside of Ukraine. And we continue to hear as well that the Russians are not really moving on the front line. So what can Russia possibly be planning right now, as on the back burner over here, their economy is completely tanking? Also from Evgen Estrebin, the population continues to withdraw money from Russian banks, with another 33 billion rubles as of September 17th. June, 216 billion rubles. July, 226 billion rubles. August, 199 billion rubles. September, 1st to the 17th, 236 billion rubles, okay? And it says in 17 days, monthly records for the past 3 months have been broken. So some of you, if you watched my video earlier today, you might know about this graph already, this information that I have been discussing for several days. Evgen Istrebin has been sharing this information that for the last 3 months, basically since June, we're seeing a bank run ongoing inside of Russia where people are massively pulling out their cash from banks. So if you notice here, June, July, and August, all right around 200 billion rubles being pulled out of Russian banks per month by the Russian citizens. And then this month in September, just the first 2 weeks from the 1st to the 17th, already 236 billion rubles have been pulled out of banks. Okay, so imagine by the end of the month going into October, this number will probably exceed 400 billion. I would not be surprised that by early October, if we get an update on the situation, there will be in excess of 400 billion that citizens were pulling out. So they clearly see the writing on the wall here. They see that the banks are at risk, Russia's economy is at risk, and also could people's money be frozen in banks? That's why I told you to remember that earlier from that article on the Kyiv Independent. Are people worried that maybe Russia's going to take extreme measures and freeze people's bank accounts so they can't pull their money out because the banking system in Russia is failing or whatever it might be? So clearly we can see there's so many cracks in the Russian economy right now, a lot of extreme issues in pretty much every sector of society over there, and it's only going to continue to worsen. And I will continue to follow this story. If we get any new updates regarding Russia's economy, we'll do another video update for you guys and give you more information. But I want to thank you so much for tuning in for today's update on September 18th, 2025. Hope you guys all have a great day out there. Take care and be safe. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.